Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Sherry. I'm an undergraduate researcher with Dr. Samantha Brooks in her equine genetics lab, and I'm going to be going through a tutorial of how to download and install DeepLab Cut Display, which is a graphical user interface for the DeepLab Cut program. And so we're going to start off by sharing screen. Okay. And so, as you can see here, I have the website pulled up. This is github.com/jshari/deeplabcutdisplay. This is where the code base is hosted on the internet in a repository. And so if you go here, it'll have a README document, which kind of goes over just the basics about the projects and then goes into the download and installation guide. So that's what we're going to be walking through today. So first, we need to start off by downloading the code base. And to do so, we're going to use these git commands and a bunch of other commands to install them. So what you're going to want to have is an empty folder. So I'm going to use DeepLab Cut test or DLC test, just a random folder I made up in my computer, but wherever you want this project to live. And so I'm going to go right click inside the folder, open in terminal. And so I just opened Windows PowerShell. That should be natively installed on all Windows computers. But I also have developed this with Git Bash, which is another shell. And so if you have a preference, I would go for Git Bash, but if you don't want to get Git Bash, Windows PowerShell should work fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this command. And oh, that's perfect. It automatically does that. So we're going to clone the repository into this folder that we just created. All right. And so then we're going to look at the repository here. So now we have DeepLab Cut Display inside of our folder. And it's got all the code files, it's got a requirements.txt, and it's got the Git controller folder. So next we're going to have to change our terminal to be inside of that. So we're going to go to CD, so change directory, DeepLab Cut. I'm going to hit tab to auto finish. And so that's basically just as if you were to click on a folder and it goes further down into the directory. So now I'm in that specific directory. And what I'm going to do is create a virtual environment. So a Python virtual environment is pretty much a resource that manages all of the Python libraries that you have installed. And so it creates an independent environment so that whatever other libraries or packages or versions of Python you might have on your computer, they don't interfere with what you're going to do with this project. So it keeps it all very modular. And we're going to be using that because we have a bunch of different packages that are used to run and compile the Python code. So to create a virtual environment, you're going to need to run a couple commands, but there's a great resource that I linked on the README, and this pretty much just goes over virtual environments in general, how they work in Python, and different installation guides for different operating systems. So the first command we're going to run is python-m then vert. I should note that you are going to need Python installed on your computer in order to run these commands. So the interpreter, there should be a lot of resources online on how to download and install the Python interpreter. But I'm not going to get into that. So you might want to check out python.org. That's the main Python website, and they should have some good resources on getting Python. But once you have Python, run python-m then vert. Vert is just a name for the virtual environment. I'm just choosing that because it's distinct and we'll know what we're talking about. But the then command will actually make the virtual environment. Okay. So now you can see we just added this vert folder and it has its own fancy computer magic that will handle the Python virtual libraries. And so now we're gonna activate the virtual environment so that it knows that we're using it and we can run different commands inside of it. So I'm gonna run this command right here because I'm on a Windows machine. So virt scripts activate.bat. Okay, and now we're inside the virtual environment. Usually this is where it's nice on Git Bash because it'll tell you when you're inside of it, but it looks like PowerShell doesn't really have that. Regardless, we're inside of it. Now that we're in the active virtual environment, we need to install all the requirements that are part of this project. So there's OpenCV, there's Matplotlib, there's a lot of different things that are in requirements.txt. And so if you just want to like take a look at them, they are here, but you can use this one command to just read and install all of the packages that are listed in that. So let's go back to PowerShell. We're going to go pip install bash r requirements .txt. Okay. Okay. So a lot of these say that I've already have them. That's because I've been working with them on my computer. But if you haven't installed any of this stuff, then it'll say freshly installed. But that's fine. And there's a little warning because I have an older version of pip. All right. So now you have two options. Once all of the libraries are installed, every single time you can run python mango.py. And since the Python interpreter can just read the code and boot it up, it'll work from there. So if I go python main GUI.py, it'll open and Deep Lab Cut will have all of its working features. And if I get to some like example data, I can open the video. It just takes a second to load. And a spreadsheet to go along with it. And we can do all of our fun plotting. But if you don't want to have to compile and run from this point in the directory, the Python command every single time, you can use PyInstaller. And so what that'll do is it'll bundle everything up into an executable. And then you can just simply click on it like you can any other icon on your computer. So I'm going to run the command Python. Actually, let me just make sure. Yeah. All right. PyInstaller. So we installed PyInstaller when we ran that requirements folder, one file. So we want an all-in-one executable file, main GUI.py, because that's where all of the main thread of computation start. So we're going to run this. And it's going to take a second. It's going to do a lot of different installations and checking how to build stuff and compile it. Perfect. All right, so now that the build's complete, we created these folders. We got build and distribution. So this has a bunch of files probably don't need to look at, but distribution and then main GUI.exe. So if we click run, the LabCut pops up. And we can add our videos and do all of our data analysis as we would have. All right. Well, Let me stop sharing my screen. Thank you for watching, and I'll be sure to update the YouTube link or anything like that with any further inquiries or bugs, and be analyzing.